In World War II, U.S. Army soldiers who would eventually help liberate the concentration camps in Eastern Europe trained at Camp Barclay in Abilene, Texas. Decades later, Angel Poorman and her husband, Norman, purchased this very property and transformed it into an international center for giving, one that honors the historic roots of the location while responding to the most pressing humanitarian needs. This is the second episode in our series, How Texans Give, where we explore generosity through the cultural lens of Texas, a place where faith, family, land, service, and straight talk shape life, community, and purpose. Angel is deeply faithful. What she says and how she says it flow directly from that place, straight from the heart. Today's conversation was filmed on site at Camp Barclay, and we've included elements of the landscape, the scenery, and the historical context to give you an authentic taste of Texas and the setting that shapes this work. With that, let's jump in to episode number 2 of How Texans Give. Angel, thank you so much, not only for being on the You Are What You Give program, which of course is giving in and of itself, but for the hospitality. I've had an opportunity to be here on the site, and we're going to talk about Camp Barclay and what it is that you're doing here. Meet your staff, meet some of your board members, really get some, real exposure to the depth of commitment and also the thought process that's gone into building out this site. So first of all, thank you for everything, hospitality up to the time that you've dedicated. But then second, if you could help all of us understand, what is Camp Barclay? Who goes ahead, takes an old Army base, buys an old Army base, and turns it into opportunity?
Yeah, so I would just say for my husband and I, 2001, we had the opportunity to come to Abilene, Texas, and move our family for our career. My husband's a pediatric dentist, I'm a hygienist. And so for us, moving to Abilene was a place that we said that we'd never move back to. My husband went to Abilene Christian University, came here for a year for college, and we just felt that there was an unction for us to move back here. We got the land. We actually moved to Abilene, Texas inside, but we wanted to live more in the country because Norm and I are both from the Hill Country, from Kerrville, Texas. And Norman was driving by one day and saw a sign and it said, land for sale.
Army base for sale.
It was a silent auction, and it was 1,000 acres, and it was government hands. And so we inquired about it. We came and looked at the land, and we're like, wow, this is like a piece of hill country, which was a place in our heart. My husband, his family had land and did a lot of exotic ranch and game ranch. So it was already something that was a legacy for him and something that he grew up with. Mm-hmm. And so when the opportunity came, we said, we need to pray and see if we know what kind of money it would cost to purchase 1,000 acres.
Right.
This is 2006. And so we got a number, put it on the bid, turned it in. There was only 5 other bids that were turned in on this land.
Oh, wow.
And what's remarkable is our bid and the person next to us, there was only $30,000 left, the difference in purchasing the land. Now, when you look at that, that's like cents compared to dollars.
Right.
And so honestly, we're going to buy it, do our exotic ranch, and build a home on top of the mountain and live the American dream. And I had a near-death encounter. My husband had a visitation, and the Lord in that moment captured us that I believe was the heart of the land and really the assignment on the land that we have been stewarding the last 20 years that brings us today.
So I'm going to ask you to unpack all of that, Angel. Our audiences are a varied group of folks from everywhere, and not all of them understand, I would say, even the language that you're using. We know what a near-death experience is. Yes. But what does it mean to have an assignment on the land? Exactly. And we do have to touch upon some of the things you just mentioned. For example, the fact that you're from Kerrville and the recent floods there and the work that you've done there, but you're also doing work around the world. So one thing at a time. First, just translate, if you will, not in the literal words, but so what does it mean that you have a sense of this assignment for a plot of land?
Yeah, so for us, we thought land, build a home, settle in, live your life, check, going to heaven. And, for us, it was, we are believers in Christ. And so, but we didn't know that there was more to life than living for the now. We were truly, everything that we had, we were building for ourselves. Our practice, our lives, all the stuff that we had was really, what was it that we needed to satisfy ourselves?
But Angel, can I stop you for a second there?
Yes.
I'm just, because you're living a life, you're giving,
Yeah.
because you're both in the dental field.
Right.
And so that doesn't sound very selfish to me. You've dedicated your lives to service, and yet you still felt that there's there's a distance, there's a gap between the way that you're living your life today and the way that you could. What does that mean?
So what happened in that near-death encounter was, it was a born-again experience that I was doing from works, in the sense I had a heart of giving back that was naturally, I believe, in each one of us, of good service. Then I was awakened to the Father's love and his love for humanity. And it was through my experience that awakened a love that was bigger than myself.
So again, I'm going to take a step back, because we've got, when you say works, you've already been doing, until that point, you were doing relief work,
Right.
correct? And you were traveling not only here in Abilene, Texas, where you have your professional practice, but you were traveling internationally.
Yes.
And hitting what kind of areas? Where were you coming to? What kind of volunteer work were you doing?
Yeah, so before the near-death encounter, I wasn't doing relief work. My husband and I were doing mission work in Guatemala. So 30 years ago, we were doing dentistry. We would set up dental clinics, and we'd do extraction. So it was from the place of the ability of our skill sets, and from the ability of things that we knew to do just from education and logic. So using that enabled us, and even in our career, to succeed. So in that place of what does it look like to walk in humility and live a place of servant leadership, and to give your life into a place of really helping humanity and putting them before yourself. So in that's what changed for me, was there was something of a greater of laying my life down. To see, when you think of the first and second commandment, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, and strength. And the second is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And in that, I experienced that. And I knew that there was empowered by the love of God to be a heart of compassion and action. And empathy is one thing, that you can have understanding, but it doesn't move you.
Right.
But what moves you is compassion. So I think that language of compassion is what really moves the heart. I had that encounter of compassion that moved me from a place of casual life of existence into something that was meaningful, that was a legacy that I was going to get to impart to others, that they would have a life, that they would have hope, that I saw something that was bigger than myself.
You mentioned that when you were doing this missions work, you learned humility.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
So it's to see their needs before your own needs. And it really is a harness strength of not putting my trust in myself, but that the love of God, that his power and his love and his hope can flow through me to be able to give that love to others.
Do you learn a different kind of perspective on life by meeting people or in a situation of need?
Absolutely. I feel that every encounter is an opportunity, that we're all created in the image of God. And that this side of heaven, that we get to experience his love, because the nature, the virtues, the life of each person carries the heart of God. And when we can identify with them and empathize with them and getting understanding of their culture and their life experiences, then in that place where we are different, because we're engaged with the Creator God. And he has many different facets and very unique in his design. And so in that, instead of trying to conform or come in with a program or with a expectation, it's beautiful when we can create together and really get to know each other by our shared experience and see who they are in their uniqueness and their diversity.
Angel, tell us about URA. Yes. What do you do? Where do you do it?
Yes. So United Rescue Alliance, We exist to truly build resilient communities by equipping and training local leaders to save lives, to give hope and empower them in times of crisis and natural disaster.
So that local leaders part is really interesting.
That's why I paused on that.
Meaning you're not just coming into for disaster relief and we've got this covered, you guys, we're going to take care of you, because at a certain point in time, you're going to be off to the next place where there's a need for disaster relief. And where's that community going to be?
That's correct.
How do you create leaders among leaders? How do you identify, how do you find who's going to be that potential leader in a community?
So for us, we have a community embedded approach, and our community approach wraps around the community, hence the word. And it's a compassionate care heart that we lead out with the spiritual, we lead out with the soul, which is the mental, the emotion, and then the physical. And a lot of times, and it's person-centered. And it's asset-based on the individual, the dignity and honor in the individual. That's very, very important. A lot of times we can come in and be able to have more symptom technique or a model. And that's important because if we're bringing water, if we're bringing food and making sure that physical body is taken care of, I mean, basic needs are vital for survival. But do we see beyond that? Do we see the felt needs? Do we see the invisible needs? And that is important. When we come with the man of peace, they're already embedded in the community. So we're asking them, what do you need and how do you need it? We're not coming in with the approach of saying, this is what we're bringing, this is what we're doing. That's where humility comes in.
Right.
And so we're there to empower them, to elevate them with what we have through our relational equity, with the agencies, with the state, with the national, our national impact. And then we can leverage and amplify our resource and effect by we coming together to make the community build back stronger.
So you've been, from what I understand, to 24 different countries.
Yes.
Where URA has been active.
Yes.
And it was, we're recording this right now, it's November 2025, but on July 4th of this year, there was a natural disaster that hit very close to home.
Yes.
And I didn't realize this when we first spoke, but so close to home that this is literally where you grew up.
Yes.
Can you tell us about Kerrville?
Yeah, so the morning of the floods, I was actually getting calls from my dad. And it was about 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Where's your dad based?
My dad lives in Kerrville, Texas.
So he's there.
He's there. And so I'm getting live responses, but I'm also getting my emails that were blowing up because I'm part of the Texas volunteer organizations that are active in disaster. I'm on the board for Texas VOAD, which is very strategic, and be able to get on those calls with the emergency management of the state and the federal levels. Mm-hmm. So immediately in that recall, I'm on hearing what's happening real time, but also really hearing my dad and what's happening with land that we have in as the floods were coming through with our properties, and that we actually, were ourselves going through the disaster.
What was he saying? What was happening?
He was just sending me pictures of the land and showing areas of, we have a bait shack and it's my grandparents' land that was passed down to us. And so we couldn't even see, the water levels were so high.
Just water.
This is water. And so things were going, just debris was all, in the trees, couldn't see anything. So we didn't know what was on the other side of the impact of what was happening at a catastrophic level.
So, right, basically you saw water and you saw the images. Your father was experiencing it, but you didn't understand the loss of life or the impact it was going to have. To this day, the need for people to continue to be at that volunteer level and continue to support the community, because half a year later, people are still digging themselves out of that.
Yes. So as I was on those calls with my dad and I'm getting live intel of information that was happening, immediately I was talking to our team, getting them ready to scale, and we were mitigating and preparing to be on deployment. And so all that is real time, and that's very important because it's, one, we don't want to be a liability. We want to make sure that we have our partners. Even though I'm from Kerrville, we still use that basic principle of the church and the business in working with our government entities, because it's important for us that they know that we're there. And then all the information, all the intel that we're doing, we sit at the table together so that nobody gets left behind. So we bring our resources alongside, and we're hearing real time of where we can truly be to the biggest impact to be able to serve.
So that's that principle of taking a step back and listening to what
Absolutely.
you're being asked to do instead of saying, I've got the solution.
Yeah.
That same humility that you spoke about before. And like you say, you're from Kerrville, your husband's from Kerrville. You guys are high school sweethearts. We're high school sweethearts. And you've moved out to Abilene. So we're about, what is it, a 3-hour drive from Kerrville?
Yes.
And so you're this international relief organization that happens to be down the road. And where I come from in Israel, 3 hours away is the other side of the country. In Texas, that's just a neighborhood drive, right? And so you were really able to deploy relatively quickly. How long were you in Kerrville, and are you still active there today?
Yeah, so we were there day 5. July I think the 8th was our first day.
And it's because you couldn't get in there beforehand.
No, we just wanted to make sure in that we were getting information, we were getting our team ready. It was the weekend, and then we were staging and be able to get we had our accommodations. And then at that time, we were also working with one of our international partners, Zaka. So we were getting them prepared and ready and accommodations. So everything was logistics. And logistic plays a vital and important role, that we don't just be there, not bring what we need for the essential call that will be able to really save lives. And so we were working together at that time, preparing, even getting accommodation. And then one of my friends actually had a partner in San Antonio with a synagogue, one of the rabbis, because we needed kosher food for our beautiful family, for
volunteers who were coming in
that
from
were coming
Israel.
in from Israel. And so just to see that, so all that time we were preparing. So when we were on the ground and had our base camp, we were green light go and serving. We had 4 warehouses that were established. We were working at the mall giving relief. Then we partnered with Watts of Love, one of our solar lights initiatives that we come in, which is important because there was no electricity and people were still search and rescue and, trying to save lives at that time. And so having our Zaka family search and rescue there on the ground, it was almost surreal that all this time and preparation in this relationships that have been established from, 2018, that in my hometown that we would actually respond together, the Jews and the Gentiles, and together being able to save lives and give hope and for humanity.
Wow. Just the idea that you come from Kerrville, you never thought you'd be finding yourselves in Abilene. You set up this entire operation, like you say, this ability to stage, to scale what you're doing. And then there are these additional partners along the way. You mentioned, the industries, and I understand that you have partners like Amazon and Lowe's that came out here and joined hands. What does that look like?
Yeah, so for us, the church, the synagogue, the businesses, the government, when you think of those entities working together, that creates society. And the businesses are so important for communities to get back to their new normal. So when we can bring assets and resources to those that are in need, then we're bringing dignity and honor to them. So we have warehouses. You heard me. It's like immediately we established a warehouse. Because of our relationships with over a decade with our partnerships, we are not only local with them, but international. There's trust that has been developed that with Lowe's and Amazon and Good 360 and Tempur-Pedic and all these amazing businesses, they shuttle their in-kind donations through us. And then in that place of the modality, we're able to take those basic needs and get them to those that really do have that immediate need, essentially. An essential need's important because it helps them take their next steps. It really gives them hope. Without hope, people die. They die physically, they die mentally, they die spiritually. But when hope arrives, if that's a bed, that gives hope. It brings dignity. It allows them to sleep. It allows them to come into that place that they're not sleeping on the floor. It gives them life. It helps them with their physical health. And so for us, the business partnerships are vital to the procurement and the logistics and being able to help, not just in the immediate need. Because a lot of times that 10-day window, there are so many people. We had national impact with Kerrville. All these, different agencies came in, but then it got quiet and a lot of them had left. But who's still there? The local.
That's
those
right.
that are around. And so we plug in and we integrate within that community. It just so happened that a lot of people in the city council and the mayors and my pastor that married Norm and I, they were on the field with us. So having those relationships create a trust. Having those relationships allows us to sit at the table to say, I'm there for our community to meet those needs. And I can be an advocate. I can come in and just as you, Avi, coming in last night and get to meet Johnny, there was a place of trust that he trusts that in that place I'm going to honor him, in that I'm going to bring someone that really is going to respect and honor where he is, because that's a vulnerable situation when you're there, that they can feel very not protected.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but when we can wrap around them and protect them and honor them, you being there is going to allow that story to go beyond our reach and Johnny's story that I could be. So what if we change that narrative? What if we use in philanthropy and use these moments of advocating that as together that we create alliances and partnerships that you can come into that place and that purpose of that response and be strategic with the opportunity with divine purpose, that I believe that's what gives hope.
Tell us a little bit about Johnny. We had the opportunity to visit with him last night, and he's just so, first of all, one of the things I love about Texas, it's similar to the folks in Israel. We're pretty straightforward. Not everybody likes that, but Johnny says it like it is. Yeah. And he really told us a story about how his family history on that property and supporting others. They had people staying at the Bumblebee Lodge.
Yes.
And kind of thinking about what that could look like in the future, because they have to fix everything up. Obviously, the whole area is devastated. But Johnny's one of those people that you maintain this relationship with, again, 6 months later. Did you know Johnny before the flood?
I didn't. I think there's something that happens in that moment of crisis, that when emotions can truly be high and disillusionment could set in. And he talked about his intense emotions last night.
Yes. He calls it IE. He doesn't want to cry.
That's right.
So he just says, okay, I've got an IE right now.
He has an IE. But being able to identify that, be able to make eye contact and be able to see them for where they are. And I believe that peace, when you look at Isaiah, it says, in the government of his peace shall have no end. When we are carriers of peace, it's an expression. You can feel the peace. And I feel that we're either going to give fear or we're going to emulate peace. So in that moment, there was this bond of peace that came for both if we're there for him. What do you need? How do you need it? How can we serve you? How can we come in and where do you want us to work? He even said some people would come in and just kind of take things or move things.
Yeah, he lost his entire library because people said, we don't need this here anymore. Now he's foraging to try to find all of those family heirlooms and artifacts, and some of them are no longer there because of the best intentions of the volunteers.
Best intention.
But that kind of, perhaps less of the humility that you mentioned before and more of the, we got this. And he was definitely clearly appreciative of you and your team, the work that you've done and the sensitive approach that you've taken to everything in that process.
Yeah, I'd like to say, we asked him, what would you like us to work on? And he said, do you see all those dishes over there? Do you see all the china? Do you see, there was mud on all the dishes, the china, all this intricate, small, detailed items covered with mud. And if I can tell you, I'm looking at mud and things that needed to be done way beyond what I would think, okay, this one
piece of china
But what does love look like? How can we respond with love of him just sharing his heart, what means to him? He invited us to touch what was so valuable to him. So our whole team polished, shined, wrapped, and put all the china away. So in that moment when he's ready, and we talked about July 4th, 2026.
That's right.
And whenever that china is put back in the cabinets, that's going to be a beautiful day to think that we took time to meet his need and how he needed it, not for us to come in and say, this is what we're going to do for you.
Yeah, and we spoke to Johnny and asked him, what is the July 4th? I mean, this is the 1 year anniversary is going to be July 4th. What's it going to look like? And so maybe we'll just roll that real quickly, that quick conversation.
I've been getting tears, you know, every now and then about this stuff. And this lady, she does it all. She does it all. She's kind of my savior. And I'm trying not to have IE, but I'm kind of, I think I'm battling it right now. But as I was talking to you guys, they would come and it'd be a whole group of people, and they would pray for me, and I'd say, wait a minute, I need to pray for you guys for showing up, you know. And I did that continually to all the groups that came. Yeah. And I just was overwhelmed by all the support we've gotten from everybody.
Well, this trip to Kerrville, the journey that you continue on with Kerrville really comes not very far, obviously, again, close to home for you and your husband, Norm, because you literally grew up there, and how this operation you've set up here at Camp Barkley has been so significant for your neighbors down the road just 3 hours away. Yeah. But what is Camp Barkley? From what I've been able to experience here, and we walked the grounds and we took a tour around, you've got this double purposing where this is, on the one hand, it's a retreat for people to come to, and on the other hand, it's this base of operations where you're pushing out relief work to 24 different countries. And, you know, there should be no more natural disasters, but if there are, so 24 and counting. Yes. What is this place?
Yeah, so Camp Barkley, the history, you know, it was an army base in 1940 to 1945. You know, Camp Barkley was 70,000 acres, 60,000 soldiers at a time trained here.
Wow.
So if you think of that perspective of truly, they called it the Abilene effect. So in the times of war, they had a scale. So they had a medical division, they had an army, we have a 100 station rifle range out here. So everyone that trained here trained in pistol and, you know, just 500 range shots. And so in that place, you know, they were training for war. Mm-hmm. The men that trained here, what's so unique, and just even for us to be here today, tied together with our Jewish brothers and sisters, is that the men that trained here actually went and freed 10 of the Jewish concentration camps. So
these were the forces that trained here,
yeah,
actually in World War II, with the close of the war and essentially the close of the Holocaust, yes, they were there liberating the camps.
Yeah, so the men that trained here at Camp Barkley went and liberated 10 of the Jewish concentration camps. So we felt, when Norman and I kind of going back to the history, whenever our near-death encounter happened and my husband's encounter of the dream, we knew that there was a greater purpose on this land. We stepped into something greater than us. So we started creating a retreat center, which is where we're filming right now, you know, which, you know, being able to host leaders of leaders to come and get respite, find a place to rest, to encounter God in the presence. Because we know that when we walk on land, to go back to that land and the assignments, there are places that you go, you just feel peace. There's places that you go that you just encounter a presence that maybe you don't even have words for it, but you just feel difference. And we felt that we can come with an atmosphere and create an atmosphere for other people to come here and just to be able to have a place to get away and to be refreshed, renewed, and revitalized and sit back out. And so we started out with retreat. God started bringing people from all over the world, which he said he was going to do. And then the next step is we saw training, equipping in nations, international. And what that looked like was preparing them with identity of who they are in God. How do they, in that place, healing of life's hurts, the things that will give hope, healing, and freedom. How do we, in that place, get a tactile expression of how do we respond in times of crisis and disaster and be able to have those basic skill sets to be able to put out a fire, to be able to save a life or stop the bleed if something happened on an everyday occurrence. So these were all built into the international piece of even acculturation. What is different nations? What does it look like when we're going international to see cultural relevance, be able to meet people where they are and not try to fix them or change them, be able to see the beauty of society through different lenses.
So can we hang on that for a second, Angel? Because I think that's a fascinating point, meaning you've got this whole operation and you have, again, there's the relief work, there's before the relief, just the ability to invest in people.
Yes.
And so that they would then kind of next phase go out and be able to do that kind of relief work around the world. And you talk about this ability to respect and honor the people, peoples and societies that you're on the one hand coming in contact with, on the other hand becoming a part of,
Yes.
with that 360 approach that you described before when you were talking about Kerrville.
Yes.
And so you're doing that wherever you go. But how do you create that language? How do you, because your language is very, I've been told, I didn't coin the phrase, right? But I've been told by some of my Christian friends that they speak Christianese, right? This special dialect of English where the terminology is specific to a lot of the ways that you've described encounters, spirituality, something that not everyone is versed in. So how do you bridge that? How do you find a way to speak a language and express things that are going on inside of who you are with a culture that doesn't speak that language?
So right now I'm going to start smiling. Did it just change even your heart? Didn't have to say a thing, but with
Smiles evoke smiles, of course.
Exactly.
In Hebrew, we say yachas gorer yachas, that a person, the way a person approaches one person, that's reflected often in the other person.
So that mirroring, that place of an eye contact, of being able to see into the soul, to be able to value with dignity and honor, that's important. But also in the unspoken, acts of kindness. That's a virtue that truly, when you look at through Christianese or just a value of dignity and honor, that, acts of kindness gives hope, and kindness truly in that place, I believe it gives hope. It's a virtue of righteousness.
So I'm going to hang on this as well. I think it's really interesting. We're talking about giving, right? That's our theme here. And you're talking about giving hope. And even before the camera started rolling, we were talking about how to be very genuine about our giving. What does that look like?
So for us, or for me, giving is really not having any strings attached, that the motive of the heart is pure. And, you can see that through the eyes. You can see that through the body language. You can see that even through the motive of the why behind. And so when we give, there's a place of a heart of generosity that I truly has a spiritual aspect that's tied to it, that God sees it. He knows it, but I'm not doing it in the sense of I need something in return. I'm giving it open-handed. And when we give open-handed, there's a place of generosity that I believe that's where the impact happens. It's kind of interest-bearing account. We talk about interest-bearing and finances and in accruing finance without having the withdrawals. I believe in heaven, there's a currency, and that currency is faith. And as we appropriate that and we trust in that faith of what God wants to do, then it actually creates a pathway of hope and possibility for others.
It's really interesting because I come from a different faith and a different faith culture. I'm Jewish. I'm what we call an Orthodox Jew. And I live in Israel. I'm very, I would say, pretty well versed in Texan because I come here pretty frequently. And at the same time, we would most likely measure, quote unquote, success on a currency scale with different tools, right? We're much more in terms of observing the law as opposed to the faith per se, even though in both cases, there are the parallels because you are taking action. You're not just living in faith in your mind or in your heart. You're taking action. You're giving. And I'm, of course, I have my observances, but at the same time, it comes from a faith orientation. But I love what you're talking about currency because people should not think, those who give understand this, those who are just very early in their giving journey, might have not given this much thought. We don't give stuff away. We don't throw stuff away, right? We are investing our resources because there's a currency, there's an exchange. And the question is always, what's the exchange? I also really appreciate what you said about that dignity and honoring to the other, because I can say for certain, especially in the Jewish community, there's an automatic kind of reflective distance when people are speaking Christianese, right? Was a 1 second. There's an agenda here. And that's, you're not going to be able to take that out of Jews, right? There's always going to be this kind of 1 second. People are looking for something out of me, or whatever the response is. It is something because there's some sort of a future vision of the world, or something about, who I am and my identity and being Jewish or not being Jewish. And so I just think that your perspective, which starts with, I want to honor and I want to respect, and you can then create more of a mutual respect.
Absolutely. And I believe there is a language of love. In that language of love truly is a culture of honor. It's really a place of investing. We talked about that, investing in them. And then, with that impact, one plants, one waters, but God gives the increase. So as we're sowing seed, that's part of life. That, seed time and harvest, you look at agriculture, you look at being able to plant and be able to see the investment of the return. Sometimes there's a place of dying to ourselves. That's part of the journey, and even in our humanity, but growing, and what are we going to invest in for the future? And I think that's very important for us to always keep that in perspective. Not only just our faith journey, which is important, everything's built on that faith, but also the empowerment, that power of love, the wisdom, and the understanding. I think those three together are very, very powerful, because we can have faith, we can come in and take risk, but we need to have a spiritual understanding of the spirit of wisdom, the spirit of counsel, the spirit of might, to be able to have that. So it's a strength that we're building something of wisdom, of stature, of favor that goes beyond. And that favor is there not to rest just in us or upon us. It's really that favor is there for others. I think that's the place of a heart of generosity, that we can truly live our life. And I believe that's where the biggest blessings come from.
So I really, the concepts of blessing and even understanding what that means in terms of abundance, also this idea of the currency, identifying with the currency, all of that really resonates. I want to take that kind of the next step, because it's not easy to give. Even if you've chosen a life of giving, it's not easy to give. And there's sometimes we're tested. And we were walking the grounds before, and you showed me this just quarry, which I can only imagine, of massive proportions, because we saw a line so long of trucks coming out of there that I could not see the end of the line of the trucks. It just into the horizon, trucks coming out of that quarry. But that quarry, which is on your property, wasn't such a simple contract to close, was it?
No. And what's interesting for us, Norm and I, the retreat, the worship center, the dorms, everything that was built here was really an investment from Norm and I, and us building from our own finances. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like Noah going, hey, build the ark, but it hasn't rained before. So here we are in West Texas, and in the middle of the tumbleweeds, if you will. And there was a dream that's put in our heart that we believe it was God's dream before it was our dream. But we're stewarding it. So building all the buildings that we've been able to walk around today and be able to see, here 12 years ago, God brought this gentleman to us and said, hey, we would like to do a core sample on your land to potentially do a rock quarry. And so remember the worship center, everything that was built. And so they came back and they said, we would like to do it over on the right side of the property. Here's your contract. When can we start?
And that was relative to where these buildings are, the same location?
It was back behind a little bit, but it would actually be on that main road that you were going up and down, which would thwart the vision of us being able to have equipping and training and do the events that we do and be able to help and have the reach globally that we have as the URA headquarters here at Camp Barkley.
Well, you certainly wouldn't have had that sort of peace of mind with the engines revving up, just driving right by you.
We couldn't. And the thing is it's dangerous. Quarries are dangerous. And so, but in that, what the Lord showed me was, don't scar the land. That's very significant. We're going back to the assignment of the lands and scarring the land. A quarry can scar the land and the beauty. We wanted to save that part because we know that people are coming here to get respite. They want to see the beauty. So we're not going to scar this part of the land. 4 months later, they came back to us because we said, if you want to do this, you'll need to do it on the left part of the property. Then they came back and they did that. And what's so beautiful about it, it's given us a model for social enterprise that United Rescue Alliance is truly a ministry, that an engine was created, that even the funds, that currency is able to flow through as the gas or the octane for the car to go. And so in that, God showed Norm and I these principles the last 20 years of you can't outgive God. And it's beautiful. It takes great trust. I mean, there were some spiritual muscles in that investment of coming. And when you think of assets, the returns on your investment to create a warehouse in the middle of nowhere and to have retreats and dorms, how do we measure what value really is? And I feel like God sees the heart. And in that, he has opened up the storehouse of heaven in that place. And he is pouring out his goodness. And of course, for us, we're one expression of that. But imagine for all of us to be able to champion and be invited and invest in that vision. I believe that that's part of our heart of where we truly get to live. So we're getting to see that on the land and in the land. And I believe that that's what creates healthy society and a beacon of hope for the future.
I want you to put your business hat on for a moment. And I think that looks like a cowboy hat here in Texas. Put your business hat on for a moment. We talked about this currency idea, but I want to take a closer look because there's always an exchange in business. And you talked about the property and the left side or the right side. On the one hand, you want the resources to come in so that you can fund all of the work that you're doing to give. So you have enough resources, so you want to have the contract. On the other hand, if it's too close, it's just going to ruin everything that you're doing and you get confused between the means and the ends.
Right.
What kind of advice do you have to people who are trying to figure that out? How do you make the finances work? How do you have that exchange in a way that it's going to really kind of be the win-win as opposed to the lose-lose?
I believe that in that journey, it is a walk of faith. And we have to see in a perspective and a reality way beyond ourselves. Now, even that in itself, because humanity, we love self-love. We're very in and of ourselves. I'm going to use a word that can be, but narcissistic. And in that place, giving truly is a whole different, it's exercising a muscle. And in that exercising of a muscle, it takes reps to do it. And sometimes, you know, it might be investing in actually being at a restaurant and seeing somebody that has a need, and actually nobody knows it, but you actually buy their dinner for them. In that place, you might not see the end goal of that, but meeting that need, or maybe in a grocery store, and all of a sudden you see a widow or maybe a family that is saying, you don't know what they need, but just saying, today I'm going to buy your groceries for you.
When you see the people at the checkout and they're like, oh, 1 second, I want to take this off because that one I can't afford.
That's right.
That's usually a pretty good sign that they could use some help.
Exactly. So what do we see? How do we look? Are we desiring in that place? Do we, you think about Moses and the big burning bushes, the big burning bush moment. But I always sit there and go, what are the little burning bushes? Are we seeing them every day? Are we missing them? Because those little ones actually create that moment of epic proportion that's preparing us for potential.
Right. So you don't have to hop on a plane with a group of 50 volunteers to go halfway around the world in order to help your neighbor.
There was a lady, just my brother picked me up at the airport in San Antonio, And I saw her. She was on actually the flight that I was in, but she was in a wheelchair. Her daughter was with her. She had a mask on, and I just felt this impression. And the Lord's like, will you go give to her? And when you look at the principles of taking care of the orphan, taking care of the poor, I mean, these are places of humanity that we get to in that place be able to serve. And so I went over, and as a generosity, I blessed her, and I said, ma'am, but I honored her. And I asked permission, because even in that brings dignity to the individual, not to say I'm doing it because then let me rub it. No. I just want you to, God sees you. He loves you. And this is truly an act of love, of him meeting you right where you are. And in this exchange, I'm investing in you because this is from him. And in that moment, she just looked at me, and it was like, and, I shared my name. They shared their name, and she goes, do you know what my name is? She said, my name's Angel.
Wow.
So in that moment, I was actually touched by me responding, that impression that touched, that in that moment, there was more to just that transaction of that investment. There was a place of identity of touching that really touched my heart in return.
You said something before that is profound in its simplicity, where you spoke about just looking beyond yourself. And I do think it's more than a muscle. You mentioned the muscle. Of course, it's a giving muscle. Of course, it's hard. Of course, you're looking at, the balance sheet or, your monthly expenses, your bank account, and can I do it or can I not do it? Or, maybe not your financial resources, but your time and your bandwidth.
Absolutely.
And can I commit the extra effort? And where am I? Where's my family? And how much am I going beyond? But fundamentally, giving is about going beyond. Absolutely. It's a mindset, right? About looking beyond yourself. But basically, if I understand you correctly, you're talking about this kernel of take action. Take the first step, do something. Because not everyone is going to be giving on this, again, international scale. And I just find it so interesting, the whole full circle of, again, you going out and then coming back to Kerrville and coming back to your roots and literally to your father calling you on the phone and saying, this is what's happening to the property, and only then beginning to uncover just how deep it goes. Sometimes you go around the world only to discover that the kernel of giving really is literally in your backyard. And so I guess with that, I have one kind of closing question, which is, it's just an invitation for perhaps a further conversation, which is, with all of this giving and this muscle that you've been training, the discipline, the mindset, is there more? Can you possibly give more? And if more is, and I don't even want to say more, I want to say better. Can you give better? Or have you kind of like, this is the max? And if there's more, or if there's better, is it in quality or in quantity?
So I look at it in both. And when you look at the principles of the kingdom of God, one of the things I want to kind of circle back to from the spiritual, it's the only place in the Bible that God says, test me on giving. So in that, I believe he's just looking. It says the eyes of the Lord go to and fro to make himself strong to those that believe in him. So I believe that there's a partnership. You look at David, you look at all the patriarchs, there was a place of faith in action. So I believe it's a place of a test, not in the sense of, check my eyes. I think it's a place of obedience. And obedience is, really not just a sacrifice, but he wants the obedience of the heart. So I just wanted to lead out in that. It's the Shema, to hear and to obey.
The Hebrew word Shema, which is from Deuteronomy. And yes, and the lead kind of opening word of one of the leading prayers in the Jewish liturgy.
I wanted to bring that to the forefront, because that quality and quantity, I believe that there's a plumb line, that as we keep that centered of God's heart towards mankind and humanity, he wrote that in our hearts. And so he also gives us talents. He gives us gifts. He's trained us, even our experiences that we have in our lives. What do we do with our talents? Talents, do we bury them? Are we fearful of saying, I have this, so I'm going to make sure that I don't lose it, so I bury it? Or do I take those talents? Do I take that quality and quantity? Do I invest them? Do I start doing reps with them? Do I start in that place taking risk and take my faith journey and actually putting that into motion? And those were part of the journeys for the last 20 years that I've seen. And the awe of God is on the other side of the journey. I don't really think it's just about the destination. I think it's about the journey.
So if I'm understanding correctly, you can give more or give better by continuing with taking all of those things that you have at your disposal, which kind of accumulates over time. There's things that you can give at later stages in life that you couldn't give earlier because you have them at a later stage in life, whether it's your talents or your experiences, your finances, whatever it is that you've accumulated over time. There's more giving ahead.
Yeah, don't live in debt. If you're there, you have where you're an asset yourself, then you're not tied. If an opportunity comes up, you can move into action to be able to be a solution, to bring the solution. So those principles are important to life every day, but it puts us in a position so when the opportunity comes, you can make that investment.
I have so many thoughts about how to go ahead and sometimes you need to stretch yourself and sometimes you need not to. And that's also a balance, right? We found it in Israel with the October 7th war that people were stretching themselves as much as they possibly could. They saw such an intense need at such an intense time. They said, I'm going to do more than I ever would have done before. But then that's not every single day. And so we've got to keep that balance where, like you say, kind of what are the reserves moving forward if there's a rainy day and what is it that I'm doing on an ongoing basis. Yeah. So the fact that you speak about it as a journey and these principles that you've applied in your life and that you've seen the benefits, you've seen the outcomes, and you've seen it grow and grow and grow, I think that's not only insightful, that's something that helps, I hope, our audience get a sense of perspective on. It's not like I've checked off the box. I did giving. Yeah. We're done. Wow.
And I believe, I call it, there's a rhythm. And that rhythm is knowing the run, the rest, and the release. Mm-hmm. In those three together, that there's a cadence. And there's a beauty when we get in that place of this sweet spot, the way God designed us and our passion, our purpose, that we truly thrive. We're not surviving, but we're thriving. And I believe that we have that opportunity through a generosity, which is from the overflow. It's not from a place of lack.
Angel, where can people find out more about URA?
Go to unitedrescuealliance.org. Thank you.
And so they'll go there, and that's an opportunity for them to figure out maybe how to volunteer, how to donate. All of that's available to them?
So on unitedrescuealliance.org, we have where you can champion, invite, and invest in the mission and the movement of United Rescue Alliance.
Can they subscribe for updates and see what's going on?
We have newsletters, our trainings. We have e-learning trainings. Our curriculum is at Tel Aviv University in the master's program. We're at colleges throughout the world, but also practically in our backyard, in our communities. This is basic training for us with a common language, with a common cause.
And if they subscribe and write to anything, they're going to find the wonderful Amber, who's behind the cameras right now, and the other side of the screen, who's going to open up to the world of URA. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And thank you, Amber, for your work. Really appreciate it as well. Keep up the good work. Before we close, I just want to offer my heartfelt thanks and appreciation to Angel Poorman, her husband Norman, and the entire United Rescue Alliance team for their warm hospitality during my visit and for sharing their work with such humility, enthusiasm, and openness. Being on site at Camp Barkley and seeing this mission up close was a gift in and of itself. Thanks, y'all. And that brings us to this week's Giving Challenge, inspired by Angel's story. So often, when we see a need, our instinct is to jump, to act immediately, to fix things. But one of the clearest lessons from this conversation is that meaningful giving often begins with listening. This week, When you encounter a situation that needs your attention or stirs your compassion, this could be at work, at home, in your community, whatever the context might be, pause for a moment before you respond. Before you step in, before you jump in with that solution, ask a simple question. What do you need from me? Or how can I be of service to you or helpful to you right now? Then, after asking that question, listen. Don't rush to respond. Real generosity isn't just about the fact that we're giving. It's about how we give, when we give, and whether we've taken the time to truly see the person in front of us. Sometimes, the most powerful element of our giving is not the solution that we provide. It's just honoring the person and the need as it's expressed to us. So, keep giving, y'all. And we'll see you next week with episode 3 of How Texans Give. Thanks for listening. If this conversation resonates, please subscribe. It's a simple step that helps us share the word and build a community that values what we give more than what we take.